Welcome back, Go AI podcast listeners. We are thrilled to welcome Peter McCarroll. He is a CPA and AI advisor at Fuel Accountants and the AI accountant. And he is originally from New Zealand, but he is joining us and now living in Canada. And so we are just fortunate he's able to join us, one, because of the wildfires. We all know that that's happening. You can tell us a little bit about this. And pre-show, just so you all know, he knows what hockey really is. Not ice hockey, but field hockey. So
Absolutely.
we're already good friends. So, Peter, how accounting firms, especially in your world, how are they moving past the resistance and applying AI meaningfully in their business, not just as an experiment?
Yeah. I would have to say, first of all, we still have a lot of hesitancy.
Okay.
There's two main blockers that accountants are going through, and I bet we'll find this in a lot of businesses. The one blocker is this is just a fad. It'll blow over. Okay, well, we heard that 15 years ago with cloud technology, and look where we are now. And the other one is professional judgment cannot be replaced by AI. This is the biggest one. Now, I still call this the ostrich syndrome. Okay, you put your head in the sand and play with your eggs.
Absolutely.
But
Coping.
but here's the thing I've discovered. Most of what we call judgment is simply internalized rule following. We've just learnt the rules and we recall them very quickly. That's exactly what AI does. It's not judgment, it's just knowledge. Well, AI does knowledge really well. And so those are the two big barriers I see in accounting firms. And then, of course, now you get into the brass tacks, which is what you guys are all interested in, is where are we actually implementing AI?
Well,
And
and you're somebody, I mean, you have over 16 years of experience in this. It's not like you just started,
mhm.
your firm fresh. So,
Yeah, well, that's 16 years with my own firm, many years before that and other people's firms. I used to work for Deloitte. But
exactly.
yeah, and so the good news is we're starting to see tools really building in AI, but it's still really disjointed. And one of the problems in accounting, and again, different industries will have the same problem, is that we spend a lot of time working in specific products, QuickBooks, Xero, our practice management tools. Okay, and these are walled gardens to a large extent. It's very hard for us to use AI to automate those systems. We can use third-party tools. There are some things we can do, programmatically, but they are building them stronger and stronger. They're trying to fortify them, not open them up. And this is a huge challenge for AI adoption because, as you guys know, the more access you have to data, the better your AI becomes. And these tools, a lot of them are actually making it harder to get access to their data rather than saying, hey, we survive if you're free to play in our sandbox and get data in and out. And that's not what they're doing very well right now. And I call that the AI and the gaps problem, because what that leaves for us is it leaves us to say, hey, we've got a lot of control in the gaps between the systems. We don't have a lot of control inside the system. We have to rely on them. And that's one of my pet peeves right now is I don't see a lot of good things happening with our biggest players. There's a lot of great stuff happening with new entrants, but not with our biggest players.
Peter, I love. Oh, sorry, I heard a sound effect there, but Peter, I love that you called it a wall garden, being the barrier of, hey, we have QuickBooks and that's attached to here, and we can't have data, and there's all these barriers, right? So, what use cases for AI tipped you off that this technology was going to change accounting? And I guess we're backing up, but I want to better understand your personal AI journey. You have 16 years of experience. You use the phrase, it's very disjointed, wall gardens. So before we get into the real use cases, what did you see that you knew that it was going to change and that the technology is there, not just for AI tasks?
Yeah. So when I first started to get interested in AI, really it was the trajectory. I launched my firm as a cloud native firm. Back in New Zealand, Xero was a homegrown product, and I decided not to implement a desktop server-based system, but to go straight to the cloud. And that was in 2010. And so right from day one, I knew that was the way to go forward. And so I've always been high tech and tech savvy, even though I'm a little old now. But I've always been high tech. So for me, I knew we were being, because believe it or not, I remember the first ever spreadsheet, and I've seen this whole trajectory. So I knew that all the stuff they're talking about, the stuff that could do, it will happen. The only question is when.
Yeah.
And the idea of being able to automate all of the bookkeeping tasks, I knew was eminently possible, because it's just transactions, it's just rule following. Yes, there is some decision making that happens there, but I knew that it would be possible. The only question was, when would it be not just possible, but when would it be viable? And that was, I guess, the bigger decision. So I knew I was actually, I always describe my origin story as being about May of 2024, and I just finished the busy season. I was taking a breather to bathe and things like that, and I was thinking about the business and the future, and I've been listening to some podcasts, and they were talking about AI, and I hadn't even started using ChatGPT. And I realized, you got to remember, ChatGPT only came out late 23, so this isn't that far in. But and I
No.
and I realized two things. I said, first of all, I started this firm as a tech forward bleeding edge firm, and we are no longer. And that's one of our core values, by the way. And we are no longer leading edge. We are normal. Yeah, we're not. We're not doing what I say we should be doing. We've got comfortable. And then I had this vision. It was visceral. I saw myself sitting on the side of the road with my head in my hands crying. And in front of me was my desk and my computer flattened. And I looked to my left, and driving away is a truck. Of course, the metaphor there is AI is the truck. And I had a decision to make. Do I want to be the guy sitting on the side of the road complaining that my business just got destroyed? Or do I want to be the guy driving the truck? And I decided, though, I'd rather be the guy driving the truck. And even if that meant I had to partially destroy my business and rebuild it, I would rather be the one in charge of that than have someone else determine what was going to happen in my business.
And
So,
much of what you do is helping client accounting services firms avoid that truck now.
yeah,
And
as I
so,
started to really, learn what it meant, and that's when I said, okay, I'm all in on AI. I need to understand it now. Then I started getting training, and then I started teaching my team, and then I started teaching my clients what it means. And then the deeper into it I got, because I've got enough technical background and I've seen all the stuff from day one. I understand that I can get my head around it fairly easily. And I started talking to other accountants, and that's where the brand for the AI accountant was born. It was in talking to my peers about what was coming.
Yeah.
And so that's when I decided, okay, I could spend a lot of time teaching business owners. There's hundreds of people teaching AI to business owners. There's very few people teaching AI to accountants. And because I know that industry very well, been in it most of my life. My dad was an accountant, so I guess you could say I was born into it. His dad was an accountant. So, I've been there that whole time. I know this industry. They are the ideal people for me to talk to. So that's what I do. I do the small business stuff as well, but my primary, outwards facing AI work is always for the accounting industry.
and you describe your own company's experience going from we're on the bleeding edge to, oh, now we're the normal. Could you give your insights into, for accounting firms, any business owners listening who may be in accounting, what are the bleeding edge accounting firms right now in terms of how they're using AI, where they will become the normal in the near future, sooner than certain business owners may be assuming? What is the bleeding edge to normal map within the accounting industry right now for
Yeah.
businesses?
So right now, It's in transaction automation. Sometimes it's referred to as month-end close. So that's taking the day-to-day transactions that come through your bank feeds and coding them agentically, using an AI agent, and only having the bookkeeper look at the transactions that are either low, what's the word I want? Low assurance, where the AI is not certain about the result, or where there are anomalies, things aren't what we expect. Okay, and I see that as becoming the becoming normal in as little as 6 months.
Okay, so if you are a business owner of an accounting firm and you implement this, I'm making an assumption here as just another business owner that some accounts are easy. They don't have as many transactions to automate. You're gonna save a lot of hours, but just ultimately, where are you thinking about passing on either savings to the customer, or you mentioned changing your bit, you had a choice and you changed your business model. How have you changed your pricing model?
Yeah, well, that's, I guess, the $1 million question in a CAS practice. Firms that are currently still billing by the hour have a huge problem, because if you automate, you save time, you earn less money. So that's not the place we want to be. Most of us are now doing, subscription-based pricing, usually a fixed monthly fee. That is still defendable, but only if you make a significant change in what you're actually delivering. The problem is that the pricing pressure, if the transaction work drops in cost, and others are out there now offering that same service at a fraction of what you used to charge, maintaining your price becomes undefendable. Okay, and this is the challenge. No one wants to drop their prices. But if the market is no longer valuing monthly bookkeeping at, say, $700 a month, and someone else is offering it at $79 a month, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
Yeah. So the shift that needs to happen, and we've been talking about this as an industry for 10 years, is that we have to move towards advisory. And so rather than just saying the value I give my clients is filing forms, sales tax forms, income tax forms, preparing books and records. If that's our belief, that that is the value we provide our customers, I think we've been wrong for about 25 years. Okay? AI is just proving it now. Okay? The value we should be seeking to provide our clients is helping them run a better business. Now, getting all your government forms filed is important. You don't want to do that wrong, and it costs a lot when you do it wrong. And keeping books and records is also really important, because if you have the wrong financial foundation, you make bad decisions.
Exactly.
But the value was never in the coding and the preparation itself. It was in the interpretation and the application of that knowledge. But because we've got so complicated with our tax laws and our compliance issues and the software and all this kind of stuff, most of us have forgotten the real job of the accountant was to help the business owner not do the business books. We had to do that to get to the advice, but many of us stopped because the advice was hard. It meant I had to talk to people, and some of us aren't that good at that. And sometimes the clients didn't really want to pay for that, even though that's what they actually need the most. Yes, you've got to react to this pricing pressure. But most importantly, you have to be able to show value to your customer. And if you can do that at the same price that you're charging today, by taking that time that you've saved and reinvesting that and making their business better, your client will want to keep paying you. But if all they want is a $49 monthly accounting subscription that does the month-end close for them, you cannot compete with that.
And in helping accountants stay competitive and relevant to their clients, that's going to take, in the age of AI, some training on AI. And so what are you seeing or finding as kind of being the common challenges whether it's points of resistance or just you come in and you think, well, they should at least know this about AI, right? But they don't. Where are you seeing accountants needing the most help, and even just firms in general? And what areas are you seeing the most resistance, and where's the most enthusiasm, even if it's a like, oh, I didn't think they would be into this, but
Yeah.
they are.
So it's definitely a mixed bag. As an industry, we tend to suffer, from the old white male problem, like me. I don't think of myself as an old white man, although I probably am now, with grey hair. But the industry is aging, and there are a lot of practitioners that just, they haven't got the space left to deal with this level of technology change. And as I said at the beginning, resistance in terms of ignorance, or I don't think this is going to affect me, is still huge.
Yeah,
Where
ostriches.
where I think firms aren't making the right decisions is they think this is about the tools and the software. That's a second issue. The first issue is a leadership and positioning issue. We just went through like my 1 hour seminar on pricing pressures in a few minutes there. Okay. And if your firm was facing that level of pricing pressure, that is a significant existential strategic threat. You
Mm-hmm.
don't solve those kinds of threats by buying software. So what I do, I run a program called the Practice Transformation Program. And I tell everybody that this is not a technology program. It's a leadership program. How do you transform the firm, your people, your processes, and yes, the tools you use to solve the problems that are coming to you? But if you don't know what those problems are, no software tool will fix it. I think that's the biggest impediment that firm owners, and to be honest, almost any business owner, has right now. You can see AI as this big demon, or you can see AI as the shiny new object that you want to play with, or you can see it as a way to make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is it's all three.
Peter, I love this take. I could go another 30 minutes down this road with you, but we don't have the time, the luxury of that. Playing devil's advocate, I hear from business owners, yes, I know it's not just a tool, but at least I'm doing something. At least I am taking steps forward. However, you and I both know it's moving so fast.
Yes.
And I have myself in an advisory role have a difficult time explaining the urgency behind, to your point, this is going to be a mindset shift and not everybody's going to make it. We hope everyone does. What are you doing as a leader to develop the skills needed to get ready and hold space for this? And so I am just curious, how do you, I know that you mentioned a little bit about that session. How do business owners, what is the urgency level in your mind for this right now? So we are at July 2026. And then also, okay, great. Now I'm urgent. I know I need to do something. What does that look like? Is it a session? Is it in-person workshops? How does somebody start?
So it's probably a combination of all of that. I think you've got to start with that deep thinking of where are we going and what do I want to look like when I get there? That's the big question. And look, to be honest, that's a hard question to ask. That's why it's leadership work, not software work. Buying a software tool is so much easier, you know. This is hard work. And I was at the AI CPA Engage conference in June, and AI CPA doesn't have a good reputation when it comes to being progressive about these things. And I was expecting to be underwhelmed, and I was pleasantly surprised actually. They come out with their Vision 2040 project. Okay, they're imagining the firm of 2040, and I mean, like 2040, for goodness sake, you might as well be studying spaceflight to Mars.
Yeah.
Like that would actually be easier than trying to understand what an accounting firm is going to look like in 2040. Okay,
Let's focus on next year.
that's right. And then I went to some workshops, and they were talking about the firm of 2030, and I was thinking to myself, 2030 is too late. I think about the firm of 2028, and this is how I put it for accountants. So non-accountants find a way to translate. In accounting, we have a busy season. That busy season is generally January to April, at least here in North America. That's our primary busy season. And so I tell people that we have one, maybe two busy seasons left before the work we do will be unrecognizable. That's the level of time frame that I'm thinking. So that puts us in 2028, maybe even 2027. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I don't like, my mission is not to scare people into action, but I want to be a realist and say, I would rather be wrong and say it's not 2028, it's 2029 or 2030, but hey, you got there before everybody else did. Congratulations, you're going to kill it. I'd rather say that than say, hey, we think it's 2030, maybe 2035. It arrives in 2029 and you're dead because you weren't ready.
Could you leave our audience with one simple, like, baby step toward adapting to that reality for accountants? Just be like,
So,
if you do one thing,
yeah.
do
Okay.
this.
So one baby step would be go to your AI, assuming that you're comfortable enough to do this, okay?
Okay.
And tell it what industry you're in and tell it what clients you serve and how you serve them. And then ask it, what will change in the next 2 years because of AI as I serve these clients? Okay, just ask that simple question, and everything it answers, you now have to have a strategy for how will your firm adopt and adapt to those changes.
Some homework for our listeners.
Absolutely.
Love that. And so, Peter, somebody has listened to this episode. They're like, oh my gosh, I need to get in touch with him. Peter knows Peter gets where my organization is or where I am on my AI journey. How do they get in contact with you and your organization?
Yeah, so you can email me, Peter at theaiaccountant.ai. If you are an accountant or a bookkeeper or a CPA, you can go to theaiaccountant.ai. We have a blog there. I publish every Monday a weekly roundup. I take all the techie industry news, all the accounting stuff, industry news, and I blend it down to a 10-minute, this is what you need to know video.
Peter, I love that. We will, listeners, drop that in the show notes. But you heard it here. You can just reach out, email him. And Peter, this has been amazing. Are any last words of wisdom, especially on the leadership side for our listeners before we end today?
Yeah, don't be afraid. It is scary. I get that. But it also is huge opportunity. And the only people that need to be afraid are those that aren't willing to face that opportunity head on. That's my advice.
Thanks for coming on Go AI, Peter. Words of
My
wisdom.
pleasure. It's fun.
Thanks, Peter.